when you see a letter that says Government Legal Department versus Trudi Warner, and when you have an indictment which is 133 pages, it's intimidating.
Why is the Attorney General applying to prosecute Trudi Warner? For holding a sign. And what sign is that? Well, look to the left of me, look to the right of me, look across the road from me.
The legal system is running scared of jury independence because juries are doing their jobs. When juries are allowed to hear the whole truth, they are using their right to acquit. And what Trudi saw was that the juries were acting as the corrective that they're intended to be.
It started last February in a London Crown Court. The trials of people had taken action to expose government complicity in fuel poverty and climate breakdown. Judge Reed goes, there can be no mention of climate change and fuel poverty in this courtroom. And David Nixon, who was on trial, felt he couldn't obey that order. And he used those prohibited words. And on the 7th of February, he was sent to prison by Judge Reed for 8 weeks, not for having sat in the road, but just for using those words. On the 3rd of March, Amy Pritchard, Giovanna Lewis, was sentenced by Judge Reed for using the words climate change in his courtroom. He said to Gio, you did this just to show your disrespect for the court. And Gio said, no, Judge, that's not true. I did it because your order was crushing my human spirit.
British justice has the reputation, of being the sort of most exemplary justice system in the world. And I was seeing things in the courts which made me wonder to what extent the courts were independent.
We're living in a time when ordinary people, awake to the realities of genocide and climate chaos, are imprisoned and injuncted and silenced for our attempts to protect life.
We've got really amazing young people who are really acting on conscience, and those young people, they're getting long prison sentences. They're being attacked. They're being threatened with deportation. They are subject to slow state administrative violence.
Even the UN Special Rapporteur on Environmental Defenders has to issue a statement to say, I had not seen a situation as concerning as the one in the UK. The crackdown on protest, he says, poses a severe threat to democracy in the UK.
In these times, what conscience really means is our collective desire for life, for truth, for all of us, and neither Judge Reed nor anybody else can stamp that out.
We are all Trudi Warner. Prosecute us too.
We are all Trudi!
The judge has refused permission for this contempt to be taken forward. That means it ends here and now, and Trudi should face no further action. There is a right of appeal, but they have to base it on a legal principle. I think the judge was entirely correct and a very comprehensive judgment, so I'm not sure that they're going to be able to appeal, but we'll have to wait and see.
This is massive, this is absolutely massive, and I'm so glad to be here today. Judge Silas Reed said to a jury, you cannot apply your conscience. Well, that's been struck down. That's completely incorrect. You can apply your conscience. More than that, as an ordinary person, I would say you have an obligation to apply your conscience.
And what Judge Reed said culminated in a guilty verdict for the JP Morgan women. That is now an unsafe verdict based on a misdirection from a judge. He's made it quite clear he considers that a jury does not have a right to make a decision on its conscience, and that for them to do so would be criminal. So major implications for all those cases today, as well as cases going forward.
I think this was an attempt by the state to clamp down again on protest. And what's really, really important is that protest isn't a separate category in criminal cases. This is a right that should be given to all juries in all criminal cases, and rather than victimise those that are accused of protest offences, it was really important that the court stood up today and made clear what the legal principles were.
I hope this is going to make a difference to other people. We must engage our own consciences. We must think for ourselves. We must stand up for what we feel is right, for our convictions. We've got to stand up for the planet. We've got to stand up against all the terrible injustices that we're seeing now across the world.